Welcome back to Revolutionary Hour Podcast with your host, Mr. E, the podcast where we challenge the narratives, question the systems, and uncover the truths that others won't. Today, we're diving deep into a subject that's been buried, manipulated, and misrepresented for far too long. Black history is not Black's history. It's been rewritten and distorted to serve a system designed to control and confuse. But not today. Today, we're bringing you the raw, unfiltered truth. Joining us is a man whose work cuts through the lies like a scalpel. He's a freedom advocate, a legal researcher, and the founder of One Stupid Fuck, a platform that exposes the fraudulent nature of the U.S. legal system and empowers individuals to reclaim their sovereignty. You may know him as the author of the viral course Contract Killer 2.0, or from his unapologetic email blasts that have shaken the foundations of so-called freedom movements. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brandon Joe Williams to Revolutionary Hour Podcast.
Brandon, we're honored to have you on the show today. But before we dive into the layers of truth you've uncovered, tell our listeners where they can find your platform and learn more about your work.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Wow, that's a very detailed introduction. Wow. My website's pretty funny. If people aren't familiar with it, it's onestupidfuck.com. It's all kind of a play on words and trying to take this very serious, very intense subject and kind of make it a little bit softer, you know. But yeah. Wow, this guy's really got me figured out. I don't think I've ever had such a detailed, enthusiastic introduction. So thank you.
Already. But yeah, man, first I want to know, man, what's up with the pickle? Man, what does it actually stand for?
So I've done a couple of versions of my course. The first version was in July of 2022, and the second version was quite a bit later, August of 2024. And in the first course, I was getting maybe a couple hundred people a month to my website. There was almost nobody coming, right? And the first course was just a complete mess. A lot of people like it. I was actually going to take it down, and my audience went berserk, and they were like, "Don't take it down. We're going to freak out and mutiny." I was like, all right, I'll leave it up. But I was going to take it down. And I watch it, and I just cringe so bad. It's like actually, it's almost painful to watch it. But people really liked it. They got a lot out of it. And in the first course, I used to do this thing where I'd say, you know, hey, if you don't understand, if you're not getting it, it's okay. You're just going to head down to the local farmer's market. You're going to find yourself the fattest, juiciest cucumber you can possibly find, and you're going to jam that son of a bitch straight up your ass. Fuck you. I don't care. Don't call me. Don't contact me. Don't email me. Right. And it was a joke. And I'd said it multiple times throughout the course, and I didn't think much of it, honestly. And after the course was released, it became sort of like a fan favorite. So I said, okay. I said, you guys really like this whole cucumber thing so much. So I said, all right, well, we're gonna make that the whole platform. And that's, you know, so it was my kind of, there was a bunch of other crazy ass jokes. Like one of the things that I do in the course, the 1.0 course, that was kind of funny, is I talk about how attorneys at law are officers of the court, and they go into the court and they're sucking everybody off like circus seals. You know how circus seals have the little horn? They go. So I do that. I go. My headphones fall off in the course, and I thought that would be kind of like a funny thing that people would bring up, but like almost nobody brought that up. It was the cucumber. Everybody's talking about the cucumber, and I'm talking like every day I'd get something about the cucumber every fucking day. So I finally said, "Wow, okay, that looks like that's the fan favorite. So we're gonna go ahead and go with that." So that's kind of how that got born. Right?
Became an unplanned mascot for you.
Unplanned mascot. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, everybody who watches your courses, they obviously want one thing, and they got one thing in mind, and that's pretty much gaining their freedom. Tell us, like, how free are you really? Like, give us a short view into the life of a daily life of a true free person.
Well, that all depends on which way you look at it. The way I look at it is there's all these different areas of freedom, right? Like freedom of owning something, which is very unique. People don't realize you don't own anything. To own something actually requires some work, which is kind of amazing, right? There's other areas of freedom. Like my own opinion of true freedom would be like you have a credit card or something, and then you use the credit card, and then the credit card kind of self-discharges, right? Which is like craziness. I don't really know where your audience is at with a lot of this stuff, but when you use a credit card, you're producing an unconditional promise to pay, right? So every time you use your credit card, you're unconditionally promising to pay for that transaction, right? But what people don't understand is that a Federal Reserve note, what's in your pocket, is also an unconditional promise to pay, because the definition of a negotiable instrument, which is currency, there's only two types of currency. There's an unconditional promise to pay or an unconditional order to pay, which is a bill. So it's kind of it's pretty much a mind fuck for people, because the thing is that every time you use your credit card, you're actually producing currency. And the reason why that's true is because every single time you unconditionally promise to pay something, you're producing something which has the same value in law as a Federal Reserve note. So when you use your credit card and you unconditionally promise to pay for, let's say, a coffee, that unconditional promise to pay, which when you get a receipt from using your credit card, that receipt is actually called a certificate of deposit, which is actually straight out of the Uniform Commercial Code, right? So you get the certificate of deposit, and it's like, you got to wonder, like, why are they so freaky about giving you a receipt? Like, it's almost like everywhere you go when you use your credit card, if they don't at least ask you if you want a receipt, they're gonna like lose their fucking job or something, right? Everywhere you go, it's like, do you want a receipt? And it's like, you can tell, like, they've been trained. If they don't ask that, they're gonna get fired, right? Why is that so important? And the reason why is because the receipt is actually a certificate of deposit, which basically means it's evidence that you produced an unconditional promise to pay, right?
Wow.
So you got to think to yourself, you're producing currency all the time, producing currency. So you got to ask yourself, where in the fuck is all of that currency going? And then at the end of the month, you're paying with an entirely different kind of currency called a Federal Reserve note. You got to think to yourself, oh, hold on a second there. Hold the note. Where in the fuck is all of these unconditional promises to pay that I've been producing all month long? Do you guys think I just like donated them to you? Like, what?
Right.
Where? Why are what? You can act like incredulous, like confused, like, well, hold on a second. You're asking me for unconditional promises to pay at the end of the month, which are Federal Reserve notes. But what the fuck happened to all the unconditional promises to pay that I produced for you all month long? You sent me a bill. It's basically a summary of all of the unconditional promises to pay that I've produced and deposited.
Right.
I have these fucking receipts that prove that I've produced these unconditional promises to pay. But yet at the end of the month, you're asking me for totally other types of unconditional promises to pay called Federal Reserve notes in order to discharge a bunch of other unconditional promises to pay that I already fucking gave you that you already have. Hold on a second. Stop for a minute. I'm pretty lost and confused. Can we please clean this up? Now, they're obviously, they're going to think you're crazy. They're going to behave as though you're a maniac. What the fuck are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. So, the problem is that the understanding of all this information is so low that all the people you're going to be talking to on the phone or whatever, they don't know any of this. They think that Federal Reserve notes are money. It's not. They think that the credit card company or whatever is giving you credit. It's like, what the fuck? How can the credit card company give me credit? I'm the one promising to pay.
Right.
If you don't,
based off of my credit.
If you don't have the credit, how the fuck can you promise to pay? If I have no credit, I can't promise to pay. It doesn't make sense. If I have no credit, I can't promise to pay. So the fact that I'm promising to pay means I'm the one with the fucking credit. I'm the one promising to pay. All you're doing is just like, you're like an administrator somewhere in the middle, like transacting these things and moving these things around. And you're basically working for me, brother. I'm not working for you. You're working for me, brother. And the problem is that everyone has it turned around. They think they're working for the credit card company. That's complete bullshit. It's
Nope.
complete bullshit. If you didn't have credit, you wouldn't have the legal capacity to promise to pay. You wouldn't even be able to swipe a credit card.
Exactly. It makes a lot of sense, but it still is confusing because it's so shrouded in so much secrecy and not necessarily secrecy, but words. Listening to your course, you're very, very hard on words, and I feel you on that because I'm the same way. How do you feel like being shrouded in all these words it seems like it's fraud. It's the way that they explain it, the way that you explain it, but the way that they word it, it seems like it's legit. How do you bring them to reconcile them two together?
Within the confines of the law, so like if it's just you, let's say you sue the credit card company, it's just you, their defense, because they're not going to show up because they don't give a fuck. They're just going to send some bar card attorney, and then the judge, right? Within the confines of the you as the plaintiff, them as the defendant, and the judge, within that triangle, it's complicated. It's not necessarily illegal. It's borderline fraud. They've set it up to where it's like it's very edgy. Everything's very edgy, right? But you got to think of this. If you sue and you push it 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 all the way to a jury, I don't think you're going to have a really hard time with the jury. If you can explain the various elements and you can place them on the table and you can link them together in a way where just normal ass people on the street can understand them. Juries are not typically very happy with banks and financial institutions and lawyers and stuff like that. You go on the street and just get a clipboard and have just a few questions on it. Question number 1. What do you think about banks? Right? Question number 2. What do you think about lawyers? Question number 3. What do you think about the U.S. justice system? Right? I guarantee you, if you went out and surveyed 1,200 people, 80+% of people are going to have a very negative reaction to all 3 of those questions. So you got to think that works to your advantage. If you sue someone and you get through the flurry of motions, which is the first part of a lawsuit, you get through into discovery and you start moving towards that jury trial, the defense is going to get more and more nervous as you get closer and closer to that jury trial. Because the thing is that, chances are, the jury selection process, both yourself, if you're the plaintiff, and the defense both have an opportunity to say yay or nay, not like forever, but to some degree on the jury, right? The thing is that, most of the people that are going to be coming in and stepping into that box are probably not going to be super fond of lawyers and banks and all these different things. So like, as you get closer to that, things that may not be fraud within the triangle of you and the defendant and the judge start to become fraud as you move into the jury box. Because the thing is that if the jury says it's fraud, it doesn't matter what the United States Code or the Code of Federal Regulations or the acts or the statutes at large or all that shit just gets kind of like wadded up in a big ball and thrown right out the window. Because if the jury says, hey, this is fraud, fuck you, it's fraud. End of story.
Right.
So the thing is that, is it fraud in the legal world? It's not the easiest conversation in the world. I think 99% of everyone, if I were to talk for an hour and explain the whole thing A to Z, they'd say, of course, this is totally fraud. But within the confines of the legal system itself, it's sort of like, it's a little bit more complicated. It's sort of like you would have to explain the fact that they had a duty to explain various aspects of the contract, right? And then they breached that duty. And then you would need to explain exactly how they breached that duty. And then you would have to explain the exact and specific damages that occurred because they failed to meet that duty. If you did that within the confines of that triangle, that would actually function okay, right? So it's just like the idea of thinking about this and having emotions about this and having morality about this in the legal system. It doesn't really work that way until you get into the jury box, right? So like you're translating the emotional aspect of all these things, and you're translating that kind of into like a legalese, essentially, right? Like the kind of listeners that you have and the kind of questions that you're asking, the way you would translate that into a legalese would be like, they had the duty to explain to me that every time I use my credit card, it produces an unconditional promise to pay, which is a negotiable instrument in accordance with UCC 3-104. And then in California, it's the California Commercial Code, Section 3-104. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit different wording, right? And you would say the California Commercial Code 3-104, Section 3-104, makes it very clear that an unconditional promise to pay is essentially currency. That would be the duty part would be like, you know, in nobody ever told me that I was creating an unconditional promise to pay. Nobody ever told me that I was creating currency. Where in the fuck is all this currency going, right? And then the breach would be like, how am I supposed to understand? We're supposed to have a meeting of the minds. We're supposed to have a clear communication. We're supposed to have a clear contract. I didn't know that I was creating an unconditional promise to pay. I didn't know that all these receipts are actually certificates of deposit. You know, a certificate of deposit, if you look it up on UCC, is basically like, so what a receipt is, it's so fucking crazy. If you use a credit card, if you use cash, it doesn't count, right? If you use a credit card, if you use a debit card, it also, I don't think it counts. But if you use a credit card, I know for sure, 100%. When you get a receipt, what the receipt is, if you were to translate that receipt in English, the receipt in English is this guy just produced an unconditional promise to pay. He deposited that unconditional promise to pay on our account, and we owe him in the future an exchange for the unconditional promise to pay that he just created. When you use a credit card, now what's crazy is the receipt is a promise to pay in reverse. The receipt is a promise to pay stating that you created a promise to pay and you deposited it on the account, and we now have it and we owe you the value of that promise to pay in the future.
Wow.
So you actually have two promises to pay with a credit card transaction. You create a promise to pay, and then they give you a promise to pay in paper form. And that's why everywhere you fucking go, every time you use your credit card, they ask you, hey, do you want a receipt? Hey, do you want a receipt? And they like freak out. They have to ask you, do you want a receipt? Do you want a receipt? Do you want a receipt? Because the thing is, do you want evidence proving that you've created an unconditional promise to pay? And in that same question, in that same evidence, do you want evidence proving the fact that the banking institution that you used to transact this transaction owes you in the future paying you back the value of what you just created in the unconditional promise to pay? That's what they're actually asking you. That's what they're asking you.
Cash back.
They're asking you, do you want, well, you know, the receipt that's produced from a credit card transaction is technically cash. And then when they ask you, do you want a receipt, and they give you the receipt back, that's also basically technically cash. Like,
wow.
If you understand how like negotiable instruments and negotiation works, you can literally you can take the receipt, you can write shit on it, and you can go and deposit in your bank account. They're not going to do it. They're going to think you're totally fucking crazy insane. But if you have a paper trail proving that you went to the window and you were kind and you were polite and you said, hey, excuse me, I want to deposit this certificate of deposit. This is actually a promissory note proving that I created and manufactured a promise to pay. I'd like to deposit the value of this receipt into my account. Sir, you're absolutely clinically insane. I understand. I got it. If you have a record of all that, you could sue the bank for failing to deposit that. That would be an interesting conversation. So basically, what people don't realize is everything is essentially currency. Everything is essentially cash. And when you have people walking around, you have a lot of people talking about how it's an admiralty law system. And I don't get into all that, because the thing is that when you understand the mechanical functionality, you realize that everything is currency. So you can kind of think of it as everything is water, I guess, if you want to. But I don't like to go down that path. I like to just explain it like I just did. And then everything is currency. A ticket on the side of the road is an unconditional order to pay. You went too fast. You did this. Now, unconditionally, I'm giving you something you need to pay for. An unconditional order to pay, if you look in UCC 3-104 or California Commercial Code 3104, Section 3104, an unconditional order to pay is called a draft. So it's the same thing. A note or a draft, an unconditional promise to pay, an unconditional order to pay, it's all currency. So like literally, I'm not even kidding when I say this, like, bro, like everything is currency. Everything is currency. When you get a parking ticket and they stick the fucking pink envelope underneath your window wiper on your car, and you come back and you get all fucking pissed off and you're all angry. The thing is that if you really understood, they literally just left a pink envelope with cash inside of it underneath your window wiper, because the fact that it's an unconditional order to pay $60, and it's got a date, and you start looking in UCC3 and you start seeing it's got a date, it's got a payee, it's got a payor, it's got all the same elements that you see right in UCC3. It's a negotiable instrument. It is legally currency. You can take the parking ticket off of your car, open the pink envelope, take the little ticket out, throw the pink envelope away. It's not worth anything. That's $60 unconditional promised order to pay. You can take that thing. You can actually write an endorsement on it with a pen. You can take it to your bank. You can try depositing it. Now, again, they're going to call you batshit crazy. In fact, a lot of the girls, a lot of the tellers and stuff, they're confused, but they're going to try to help you. They're going to run around. They're going to get the supervisor. You know, how do we do, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Blah, blah. They're gonna be so confused, lost. But if you're like very kind and like, well, I just, you know, this appears to be an unconditional order to pay, which technically, you know, would be a negotiable instrument. Like, I would like to deposit this on my account. Is there any way we can make that happen? And you write out a deposit slip, and you're gonna write out a deposit slip, and I'm depositing $60 of value, right? Eventually, they're going to run around and get a supervisor. Eventually, they're probably going to say you're batshit crazy, and you know, what are you talking about? Now, at that point, you could sue the bank. You could be like, "Look, I went in there and I was trying to work with them, and I have an unconditional order to pay, and they wouldn't accept it, and they didn't dishonor it. Basically, they have to dishonor it, which is UCC 3-502. They have to either dishonor it, or they have to deposit. There's really, when you start studying it, there's really nothing in between. And it literally says in UCC 603B that if you tried to deposit that unconditional order to pay and they refuse the unconditional order to pay, but they didn't dishonor it as per the rules of dishonor, then technically speaking, the original deposit would still stand even though they refused it, right? So you have all these rules where it's like, as long as you show up and you're friendly and you're like, you know what's going on, and you explain things the best of your ability, even if they reject it, it still applies to the account, right?
Right.
So then at that point, now you have a $60 ticket. And then now you're also going to ask for damages on top of that. You're like, hey, look, I spent all this time and now I'm over here in litigation. I'm spending all this time here. I should be compensated for my time. All I wanted to do was come in and deposit an unconditional promise order to pay, which is a draft, which is very simple, which is totally lawful. And I was denied doing a lawful action. Thus, I should be compensated for my time. So now you wind up a $60 ticket that you were trying to deposit into your bank account. Now it's blown up into this whole lawsuit with damages. So
they gonna have to pay that.
They're gonna pay it, right? Now the thing is that the problem with this situation, just to be totally clear, is that no one knows any of this information. So like you walk into the bank, they think you're crazy. You walk into the courts, they think you're crazy. Maybe they know, maybe they don't, but they at least pretend like you're crazy. Whether they know or whether they don't, I don't know. I haven't been able to figure that out yet, right? So, but the thing is that what I'm telling you is exactly and specifically as per the law. So it's just it really just comes down to the fact that you think to yourself like, oh, it's the law. I can just go in there. They're going to figure it out. The problem is that yes, it's the law. No, they don't know anything about it, and it's you're going to find out it's a long bridge to traverse. It's like to try to get from, they think that a Federal Reserve note is money. It's not money at all. It's a negotiable instrument. To get them across that bridge is difficult. Even in the IRS manual, they have a whole section on payments that are not accepted. One of the items in the IRS payments that are not accepted is a fucking promissory note. A goddamn Federal Reserve note is a motherfucking promissory note. So you gotta ask yourself, how in the fuck am I supposed to pay you, bro? I can't pay you. I literally can't pay you. It's physically impossible.
Wow.
We get all these letters from credit card companies and stuff. Oh, we don't accept promissory notes. Then how in the fuck am I supposed to pay you?
Man, looky here. So to see, it look like we're touching into the realm of legalities and legalese and things of that nature, man. So do people really have to have some kind of a law degree to even understand this? Like, how did you come to understand all this?
Lawyers don't know anything about this. I've had clients of mine go out. I'm like, look, you're going to go online. They're going to type in negotiable instrument specialists. This is at the beginning. I was very naive. And I said, hey, go call some negotiable instrument specialists and see if we can get some help on some of these stuff, right? I had a client of mine call a bunch of these guys that said they were negotiable instrument specialists. They didn't know any of this, not a fucking word of it. So I abandoned that. I was like, well, looks like that's not going to work. So the thing is that the big problem with all of this is absolutely no one, including the judges, I just can't tell. I can't tell. They're so freaking, I can't tell if the judges know or not, right? But everybody else besides judges, and I mean police, attorneys, prosecutors, DOJ attorneys. I got this DOJ attorney. I'm suing the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And I've talked to this DOJ attorney on the phone, and I can tell you right now, he has no clue, right? So he has no clue about citizenship. He has no clue about nationality. He has no clue about negotiable instruments. He has no clue about anything, right? So, but the thing is that the judges are the one area where I just can't tell, because I've dealt with a lot of judges that have been in the chair for like 20 plus years. But the problem is that I've never really had. They just throw my shit out. They don't say anything. It's like super quiet, hush, hush, just get them out of here kind of a thing. So I've never had any hearings. I've never had any real information. I've had very little feedback. So it's tough for me to totally realize, do the judges know or not? But besides them, everybody else from that point all the way down doesn't have a fucking clue. The bankers don't know. The senior bankers don't know. I've had executive top tier bankers on the phone, 28 years plus, no clue. They don't even know the definition of a negotiable instrument. I've had billionaires I've talked to don't know the definition of a negotiable instrument. They don't even know what a Federal Reserve note is. So you're living in this world where finances and money is such a fucking issue. Well, no wonder. I mean, even billionaires don't know what it is. You think Elon Musk knows what a fucking negotiable instrument is? He has no. I would imagine he has no idea. I don't think Trump has a clue. If you knew what a negotiable instrument was, I think Trump's a good guy. I think he would probably do something to try to make some adjustments. If you know what a negotiable instrument is, it's very, very fascinating and easy to change things and make adjustments and everything else. So it's one of those things where the real situation is you have two different things. You have what everyone thinks the law is, and then you have what the actual law is, which are two very, very different things. And then when you find out that the law is completely different from what you ever thought it was, now you're like trying to share that information with other people, and like everyone just thinks you're fucking batshit crazy. And that's basically the life that you're now going to live once you go down these rabbit holes. That is, I promise you, you are going to wake up. You're waking up in this world, and you're looking around, and you're just going to realize that no one has any idea about it. Billionaires, trillionaires, quadrillionaires, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. Name anybody you want. Ty Lopez. Name anybody you want. They don't have a clue. None of these people have a clue, and it's not. It doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just that if you want to live in a world where there's the law and people follow the law, you're going to realize, you're going to wake up real soon, and you're going to realize that you're going to have to share what the law is and help other people understand it. And it's not going to happen overnight, because you're basically like the crazy person at that point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And that's it.
Yeah. Now you touched on two very important topics right there. You know what I'm saying? One being Trump being in the White House, and he doesn't really know anything about this. And also you have to help each individual person. Well, so I want to bring in something bold, which is your email that was calling out the trust the plan mindset. Now you labeled it as blasphemous, man, and laid out with this mentality that enables inaction. Like, could you expand a little bit more on what you think has caused so many freedom-minded people to actually fall into this trap? And how could that complacency impacts the fight for individual sovereignty?
I got kind of pissed when I sent that email. I sent some funny emails. I sent some goofy. A lot of the emails I send are kind of goofy and funny, as you know, but that one was kind of a pissed off email, right? Yeah. So, I have a lot of people who are big Trump supporters, and I'm not anti-Trump at all, right? I just think that, I mean, boy, I'll tell you right now, if I had to choose between Biden and Trump, I'd happily choose Trump, right? I can't vote. I could technically, if I wanted to go through a bunch of hoops and stuff. But really, the simple fact is I really shouldn't. That's really the real fact of the matter. So I don't. But the thing is that the QAnon or Q, or people have told me, oh, QAnon, it's this other thing, you don't understand it. Fine, I don't understand any of it, and I'll admit that right now, right? But the thing is this: I watch a lot of really great people get involved in all of that stuff, which may or may not be good or bad or whatever. Maybe it's just my own perception. And they get into this whole trust the plan attitude where it's like, Trump's got it all figured out and you don't need to do anything, and you just sit at home and drink your beers and eat your popcorn and enjoy the show. And God, that pisses me off. Because the thing is that, when you start to really understand what's going on, you start to understand negotiable instruments, you start to understand nationality and Title VIII and the definition of the word person, and how nationality and the word person and citizenship and passports really work. And you start to understand, like, you can create a private trust with no money, and you can take all the cash and all your cars and everything, and you can start listing the trust as the registered owner of all your cars. And you can open up bank accounts under your trust, and you can get an EIN numbers from the IRS for your trust. And bang, you're instantaneously completely tax-free for the rest of your fucking life, right? It's so mind-blowingly easy, right? And the thing is it's like, it's not trust the plan. It's not sit there and do fucking nothing. It's like when you understand some of this information, all you have to do is just share it. All you have to do is just tell. You don't need to like jam it down people's throat. Hey, let me tell you about citizenship. No, it's just like, but if you just hear someone talking about how they can't pay their tax bill, you hear about somebody who's having a citizenship issue. You hear about somebody who's pissed off because they think that all of our taxpayer money is going to Ukraine, which it's not. That's all completely manufactured in the media. All of our tax money goes to the IRS, goes to the International Monetary Fund. It's actually siphoned out of the country,
right.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with Congress. They have absolutely no control over any of that money. So you think Congress is making these decisions about the tax money coming into this like pool, and then now Congress has sent this tax. That's not how it works at all. That's all total media illusion. Your money goes to the Internal Revenue Service, and then from the Internal Revenue Service, it goes to the International Monetary Fund, which is siphoned out of the country. God knows where it goes, but it has nothing to do with anything that you think. The government is allowed to print all of the U.S. Treasury bonds that it wants, and then it can exchange those U.S. Treasury bonds for Federal Reserve notes at what's called the Federal Reserve discount window, which you can type right into the internet. Federal Reserve discount window, boom, it'll pop right up. That's where they go. They have what's called Fed Wire. You can type that into Google. Fed Wire is the actual computer program that they use to exchange the U.S. Treasury notes for Federal Reserve notes. So the government, if it wants to print 15 trillion or 20 trillion or 22 trillion, it can do whatever it wants. It doesn't need your tax money. It doesn't need your sales tax. It doesn't need your federal income tax. It doesn't need your state tax. Same thing with state government. They don't need your state tax. They don't need your sales tax. All of it is completely fucking irrelevant. So the thing is that when you start to realize how all this works, then you got to realize none of it's money. It's all unconditional promises to pay. All Federal Reserve notes are all unconditional promises to pay. So then it goes to this whole other level of like, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck is all this? And like, why? Like, this is it, it's literally just everything is a fucking illusion. Your money's not going for taxes. Your tax money isn't going toward the country. Your tax money's not going to fucking Ukraine. And it's not even money. It's actually negotiable instruments. It's actually unconditional promises to pay, all based off of your fucking credit. So you know, it just gets to a point where you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you start to have that realization of what the fuck is going on, and you start to go down those rabbit holes to learn what the fuck is going on, then you learn what the fuck is going on. As far as I'm concerned, now all you got to do is just share it with people.
Right.
That's it, bro. Because I'm telling you right now, if you go down the rabbit hole and you realize, well, hold on a second, a Federal Reserve note is an unconditional promise to pay. But wait a second, a fucking credit card transaction is also an unconditional promise to pay. So how does that work? And then you go down that rabbit hole and you realize that an unconditional promise to pay with a credit card, you can actually go to the Federal Reserve discount window via FedWire, and you can swap the value of the unconditional promise to pay that you created for Federal Reserve notes. So like, wow. Then you start going down that rabbit hole, and then you're like, well, how the fuck do I do that? And then you start to realize that if you open up a federal credit union, which you only need 7 natural persons to do it, you're going to sign what's called an OC-10 agreement, an operating circular 10. You can type it into the internet, OC-10 agreement. And it'll pop up. It'll say Federal Reserve Bank. You can download the OC-10 agreement. You can read it. That's the agreement that you sign to get access to the Federal Reserve discount window. You could get an OC-10 agreement signed. You could start issuing your own fucking loans. You know, so if that's where we're going this year with all this, right? So if, let's say, for example, I went and signed an OC-10 agreement, I could give you a piece of paper, and that piece of paper is a mortgage, and it says, I promise to pay blah, blah, blah amount for this property plus interest, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. I'll print it off the internet. I don't care. You sign that fucking thing and you hand it to me. I now have in my possession a valuable unconditional promise to pay. It's a security. It's a promissory note. Now I can turn around and I can endorse that promissory note in a particular way, which I go into in all my material. And I can actually swap that unconditional promise to pay using FedWire at the Federal Reserve discount window. That's how they fund all the loans. So you become what's called the maker or issuer of the promissory note. You sign the promissory note, and you don't put any specific exchange information on the note. You give them the note. They take the note and they go to FedWire and they type in their information. I don't really know exactly how the program looks or how it functions, but I kind of do,
Right.
but not fully. And they collateralize. They turn that original promissory note into what's called a collateral security. And the process as to how this works is very clear. It's in 12 USC 412. 12 USC 412. They swap that promissory note for another kind of promissory note, which happens to be called a Federal Reserve note, which is what's in your wallet. Swap.
Right.
And then they take that bag and they bring you back that bag. But the thing is, they can scoop a bunch of money out of it first. Because the thing is that the value of the swap is the value of the maturity value of the loan. So if you promise to pay $360,000 for a mortgage at 4% interest over 30 years, when they go to the window, the value of the note is the full maturity note of the full 4% at 30 years.
Wow.
So when they swap that at the Federal Reserve discount window and they get the bag, it's like $600,000 in the bag. So they dig out the $240,000 and they stick it in their pockets, and then they give you the $360,000 plus you're on the fucking hook to pay another $360,000 right back to the motherfuckers. And it's all based on whose credit. Oh, it's the bank's credit. They're not the one who promised to pay. How in the fuck do they have credit? Whoever's promising to pay is the one who has the credit. Who promised to pay? Was it the bank? Well, no, actually, Brandon, the bank didn't promise to pay. Okay, so whose credit is it?
Exactly. It gotta be mine.
It's your fucking
It
credit,
gotta be
bro.
mine.
So
we just using it wrong.
You watch The Matrix and you see all these fucking pods, and these bodies are in possession to be used as energy production devices for God knows what. Literally, not even fucking joking. That is the world we live in. You are hooked up to this fucking machine, and you don't realize that you're just giving all this tremendous energy to the machine, and the machine is just totally fucking you, and you just don't understand it, right? And when you start to understand it, and you start to really understand how this all works, it's your credit. You're the one bringing the credit to the table. You're the one promising to pay. You're the one creating the currency. You're the one funding the loan. When I sue all these different organizations, I don't say it's a loan, because I say in all my documentation, I'm like, loan is all fraud. It's all fraudulent terminology. What is actually occurring? It's a currency exchange. It's like if you went to Italy and you have French francs and you need to convert French francs to Italian, whatever the fuck it is. You're the one who created, or the technical term, the legal term is maker or issuer. You're the one who is the maker / issuer of the original unconditional promise to pay, which is a security, which is a negotiable instrument. So when you release that instrument and you basically give it to them and they use that instrument to fund the loan, who funded the loan?
I just funded it. I just funded my own loan.
You're hiring a currency exchange to assist you, who is the creator of the currency, to convert said currency from one type to another type. And the only reason why you even need to convert the currency from one type to another type is because the guy down the street doesn't realize that he's actually legally obligated. If someone handed you a mortgage and you promised to pay and you signed it and you grabbed the documents, you said, fuck this, I'm leaving, and you took the documents with you, do you realize that the actual unconditional promise to pay the mortgage is like a gigantic $560,000 note? It's like having a $560,000 Federal Reserve note. And you can go down to the coffee shop and you can buy a coffee and you can hand them the mortgage docs. And you can say, I've overpaid by $559,995. Please give me a return. And they go, you're fucking crazy. You're batshit insane. Get the fuck out of here. You can sue them. Again, this is like craziness. This is crazy talk, right? The problem is that a lot of times the judges just throw all this shit out, because I've tried a lot of this stuff and they just throw everything out. But the thing is that technically speaking, in the law, that's totally workable. Technically speaking, you can do that. Technically speaking, they're supposed to give you a receipt. Technically speaking, they're supposed to give you $595,959 back. Technically, all these things are true, but then you get in there and they just ignore the law, they ignore the rules, they ignore everything, because the judges are thinking, if I do this, the entire American economy explodes and the whole country bursts into flames economically, and everything goes to shit, and my whole country goes down the tubes instantaneously. So what do? They dismiss your shit and they don't say a fucking word. They say nothing. They give you no information. Oh no, he's crazy. He's crazy. Get him out of here, right? So
aren't they supposed to give you a dissent, like a what do they call it? When they make a ruling on a case, they're supposed to tell you why they ruled that way, but they don't say nothing.
I've had one judge explain why. In all of my cases, I've had only one judge, Susan Richards. I've had only one judge who happened to be a federal judge, a very senior, partially retired judge, has been the only person who's ever delineated and explained. And that was actually my very, very first case, which frankly was pretty sloppy. It was my first case ever, right? So I tightened things up a lot after that first case. And the first case was the only one we've ever had where the judge actually gave an explanation as to anything. So that's the issue. I thought, hey, this is going to be a slam dunk. I got the law. It's going to be all good. They're going to follow the law. Yeah, I was dead wrong. So, it just is what it is. I'm trying to figure all that out now and change course and whatever. I thought, at least we could have a conversation about the law. That was also optimistic. That wasn't going to happen. So
yeah, and they supposed, and it's actually on their duty to actually explain. That's what their whole job is to interpret and explain the law. And
so I'm trying to figure out how to force the conversation and force these things, and I'm going to sue if I have to sue judges in the Court of Federal Claims, which is where you sue judges and stuff. If I have to go in that direction, we're going to go in that direction, and then state judges. So people talk a lot about this whole like oaths of office, and you can like bang their bonds. You can only do that with a state judge. You can't do that with a federal judge because a federal judge has like special immunity. They don't even have bonds, as far as I know. So with a federal judge, you would go and you would sue the federal judge in a different court called the Court of Federal Claims. And then if you have a state judge, you can file not a FOIA request, but the state version of a FOIA request to pull their oath of office, and then you can bang their bond for a state. Like, we're trying to figure all this out. Like, okay, so federal, we can't bang their bond, but we can go to the Court of Federal Claims. How does that work? How do we file a case in the Court of Federal Claims? And then the state court, how do we get their bond, their oath of office? And then once we get it, which can be difficult sometimes, they like to really make it hard sometimes because they're fucking assholes. And then once we get it, how do we bang that bond? So we're trying to figure all these things out, and like it's just very noisy. Like, everyone's talking about all this shit, but no one's doing it. So it's just a bunch of bullshit everywhere. And that's the issue. If you go around and just start listening to everybody, I'm not saying I got all the answers. I'm just saying if you start listening to everybody and their mothers, you're going to be very confused because this guy says this, but none of them are doing anything. Okay, well, hey, you say bang their bond. Where's your case? Can I look up your docket? No, I don't. I've never filed a case. Okay. Well, how the fuck do you know how any of this works? Blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just figure it out, study the thing, and then do it, and then experiment with it, and like just slowly, like step by step. And I personally don't think there's a whole lot of people, or maybe even anybody, doing that. And so that's why people have gravitated toward my platform so much, because all my lawsuits, as much as I possibly can, they're all public. They're all available for download for free. You don't even need a Pacer account. Pacer is like, if you wanted to get into all the different docs and all the different cases and stuff, there's something called Recap. So if you have a Recap browser extension installed in your Chrome, every time you download something from Pacer, which is the actual government website, it gets duplicated into Recap, and it's all totally free. You need no login, you need nothing. You can just go to Recap, type in a case name, and then bang, click on a document, and then boom, it'll just pop up PDF instantaneously. No login, no nothing, no credentials, no money. I mean, it's literally the Free Law Project is the name of it, right? And it's a nonprofit, specifically like the Free Law Project is like, it's bullshit that someone needs to create a fucking login and pay 10 cents a page to get fucking documents about court cases. It should be public and it should be free. That's the way that the Free Law Project thinks, right?
You're paying 10 cents for a digital page.
That's correct.
Something that's not even tangible.
That's correct.
Which is against the law.
It's well, that's a whole nother discussion. But the thing is that the Free Law Project is like, that's bullshit. It should be free. We're creating a free platform. It's called Recap, which is just Pacer spelled backwards. Fuck you. You know, it's not really fuck you, but it's when you start to read the information about the Free Law Project, it's like they're a nonprofit organization that thinks that this is ridiculous, basically, right? So I was like, well, fuck yeah, cool. Recap, let's go. So I have the Recap thing installed in my browser, and whenever I download any documents, it goes into Recap. So from that point forward, it's available for free with no download, no money forever. Well, as long as Recap continues to exist, right? So the thing is that, you know, you can follow all my work. I try so hard to make everything available on Recap. I teach people how to access Pacer. So even if it's not on Recap, you can get into Pacer and you can still get it for 10 cents a page. I have a free contract killer course. I teach about negotiable instruments. I teach about taxation, how to be tax-free forever. It's super easy. The biggest barrier to a lot of this stuff is just, it's so unbelievable that it could even possibly be true. That's the biggest barrier is just like, oh my God, this can't be true. There's no way. Like that's like, if you can get over that, if you can be like, well, fuck, I don't know, but I'll take a look. If you could even get to that point, then you'll be fine. But if you're just like, fuck, this can't be true. This guy's fucking crazy. There's no way this could be like this. There's no way this could be easy. Then you're not going to be able to access this information, no matter how available I make it for you. It's not going to make any fucking difference, because the thing is, you're going to go, it can't be. This is crazy. If you know, one of the things people always say, if it was this way, everybody'd be doing it. It took me 3 years to figure all this shit out and organize it. So the thing is that people didn't know it. No,
right.
You know, and nowadays, every fucking day, it seems like there's a new fucking guru, you know, which is great. I love that. I think that's great. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I think it's fantastic, right?
Putting the work in.
So the thing is that, you know, people learn and then they turn around and they teach, right? And then more people learn and then they turn around and now they're teaching. And then more people learn and then they turn around and then now they're teaching. And I think that's what's going on right now in a crazy big way. And the thing is, everybody knew about this. Everybody be doing it. Well, you know, you could say that about the internet. I'm from Indiana, Midwest. When the internet first came out, everyone thought it was horseshit. Same thing with cell phones. When I'm not going to, you mean to tell me someone can fucking call me and the goddamn thing's going to ring in my pocket when I'm walking around trying to just live my life? Like, fuck that, you know? Like back in the day in 2001, cell phones and internet, a lot of people thought that shit was stupid and crazy. Like, what the fuck? People thought the internet was fucking stupid, you know? So the thing is it's the same thing. It's like, you know, it took 20 years, not 20 years. It took 12 years for the internet to like fully integrate into the society, right? So, you know, it took 10 or so years for cell phones to fully integrate into the society. They started in the 90s, and it wasn't until the 2000s when it was like, everybody's got one, you know.
Everybody got it, yeah.
So 10 years, even for internet and cell phones. So people think that, you know, legal shit's going to be overnight. They're
I mean, technically, we have over what 140 years, 160 years, almost 160 years that we actually have an amendment that hasn't been ratified properly yet.
14th Amendment.
And it's hard to get people to understand that it's not constitutional. Why do you think it's hard for people to understand that?
Well, the biggest problem is everyone's running around having arguments or conversations. Like, for example, Trump just signed this whole thing about citizenship, birthright citizenship, right? Well, let's just stop the train for a minute. You know nothing about birthright. You know nothing about citizenship. You know nothing about the 14th Amendment, and you know nothing about why it was there or why it was passed, and you know nothing about what the country's citizenship or nationality was before that. You don't even know the fact that the term nationality and citizenship are two totally different subjects. You don't even know that Title 8, which is all about all of this information, it has nothing to do with citizenship. It's called nationality and aliens. And you have to click and click and click and click and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then bang, all of a sudden there's citizenship. So you got to realize nationality is way up here and citizenship's way down here. And no one knows any of this information. So everyone's running around arguing, oh, citizenship and birthright citizenship. You don't know what citizenship is. You don't know what birthright is. You don't know what birth is. You don't even know who the fuck you are, because you go into Title 8 and you look at the definition of the word person, 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection B6. The definition of the word person is an individual or an organization. Oh, so you mean to tell me an organization has nationality? An organization has birth? So wait a second. So who's on the passport? Is that an individual or is it an organization? And you go, oh, it's an individual. And I go, okay, what's the definition of the word individual? And you get the fucking stare, bro. You get the fucking stare. I don't know. The problem is it's not even defined. It's not even defined in Title 8. And let me tell you, everything is defined. So you find this word individual, and there's no definition for it. There's a fucking reason for it, bro. There's a fucking reason why that word's not defined. There's a fucking reason for it. And the reason why is because they want you to go on this fucking presumption. Oh, I know what an individual is. Oh, I know. And they're going to say, oh, you're smart, dude. You know what an individual is. Oh, of course, I'm a smart dude. I know what an individual is. You have no fucking idea. And it'd take me 15 minutes to go down the whole line of explaining what that word means. If you want me to make it really, really fucking simple, the word individual means business. If you want me to make it, and I can go on a 15-minute explanation and go down the whole fucking timeline of everything, but just to keep it really fucking simple, the definition of the word person, 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection B6, it means a business or an organization.
There you go.
And I know that might leave some people in some, oh, how could that be? And you should be in a how can that be? Because now all of a sudden you're going to start asking fucking questions. The most dangerous motherfucker walking the earth is the guy asking questions. Okay.
Yep.
So the thing is that the definition of the word person and what's on your fucking passport is a business or an organization. So you got to ask yourself, well, which one is it? You tell me, brother. Is it a business or an organization? You think the word individual means you as a man or whatever. That ain't it at all. Because you look at the Commerce Clause in the Constitution, the federal government only has jurisdiction over commercial. It goes even deeper. It's got to be interstate commerce. So even if it's within a single state, they still don't have jurisdiction, right? So that's where this whole business, commerce, motor vehicle, some of your people may know about that. That's where all this comes from. It comes from the Commerce Clause. Commerce Clause says the federal government only has jurisdiction or full unmitigated jurisdiction over interstate commerce. So what did they do? They gave you a business. When they processed your birth certificate, they get part of the processing of the birth certificate, they open a business for you, right?
Right.
The tax identification number of that business, guess what it's called?
Social Security.
Social Security number, right? So the thing is that when you fill out your little passport and you type all the stuff in and you type in your Social Security number, you're getting a passport on behalf of a person, an individual or an organization. You think you are the individual or the organization. That's not true at all. You're the agent on behalf of the individual or organization. And what's printed, your passport is basically has two persons on it, or one person. One is the individual or the organization, and then it's also got a photo of you. So what the fuck do you have to do with this thing? You're the agent on behalf of the individual organization. And then you got to think, organization is literally defined in Title 8. So you look up 8 USC 1101 subsection B6, and you have the definition of the word person, an individual or an organization. And you go like, I wonder what the definition of organization is. Now those are some smart motherfuckers. If you had that thought during this, you're a smart motherfucker, right? You go down to 8 USC 1101 subsection A28, and it has the definition of the word organization. And I can read that for you right now. The term organization means, but is not limited to, an organization, corporation, company, partnership, association, trust, foundation, or fund, and includes a group of persons, whether or not incorporated, permanently or temporarily associated together with joint action on any subject or subjects. So basically, what does organization mean? It means fucking literally everything and anything, anywhere, ever. Basically.
Right.
So then you think to yourself, okay, so how does someone become a legal citizen or whatever of the United States? Open up a business of your name in all capital letters. The fucking birthday of whenever you open the goddamn thing is the fucking birthday. And then you go to the fucking IRS and fill out an SS4 or SS5, whatever the fuck it is, to get an EIN number. The EIN number becomes a social security number.
And you start using that instead of your social security number.
And then you go into the passport office and you type in name of the person you're applying for the passport for, all caps, BRANDON, social security number. I'll put the goddamn business's fucking EIN number in there. And then they'll, who knows? I've yet to see anyone even test this. But let's say they send back to you, oh, well, that's just, I can't give you a passport on this. You sue the Department of State. And you say, 8 USC 1101 subsection B6 states that a person is defined as an individual or an organization. An organization legally can get a fucking passport. Why the fuck are you denying a passport for a person who is legally trying to get one?
Wow. That's how you put that together. And all this was as constructed based off of the 14th Amendment?
It's all the 14th Amendment, bro. The 14th Amendment is what gave human rights to legal fictions.
That makes sense.
So that makes sense because you hear the word human being. A being is the legal fiction of which has been given human rights through the 14th Amendment to human being. There's literal fucking court cases where they say that corporate fictions are basically human beings. I'm not even kidding.
I mean, that just makes sense, though. I mean, they didn't consider black people to be people, so they would consider them to be fictional persons.
That's correct. Well, I don't know if that's an exact correlation, but yes, it's the same. That is that makes perfect sense to me. If that was what it was, it makes perfect sense to me, because the thing is that, the 14th Amendment. So you had the Dred Scott decision in the 1850s, which is where you had the Dred Scott is where you had the slave, and he was trying to figure out, and they couldn't figure it out, and they said he's not a citizen, he's not even not even a human at that point, right? And then right around that same time, the definition of the word person was changed. Right around that same time, then 15 years later, then you have the 14th Amendment, and then you have the slaughterhouse cases and everything, where they said basically like, in order to give all the released slaves who don't have a citizenship, in order to give them citizenship, we're going to basically, they don't say this directly, but this is what it wound up being. We're going to make them employees of the national government. And it's going to be a special category of citizenship that doesn't have rights. It has privileges and immunities. And we're going to call it the federal U.S. citizen category. And what they did is they moved all those freshly released slaves into that category. And they probably did that as sort of like a middle ground, because they're thinking in their heads, like the South didn't want the released slaves to have all the rights of a state citizen. So you got to think, you got to put yourself in that time period. That's why I like to read the cases, because it puts you into like, God damn, these fucking judges were really dealing with some serious shit. You got to think like the South, if you give the released slaves all they call them Negroes, literally right in the goddamn fucking slaughterhouse cases, you give them all the rights of a state citizen, and now the South are going to be riding up on horses to murder you and your family. Who knows? Who knows what was going on at that time period, right? So what did they do? I assume this is why they did it. They said, hey, don't worry. We're going to give them a special category. It's going to have very little rights. In fact, no rights. It's going to have privileges and immunities. They're going to have almost nothing that you guys have. But at least they're going to be able to be here legally without us having to fucking kick them out, basically. That was basically what the slaughterhouse cases were, right? And then fast forward 150 years, and now they've tricked everyone into signing freely that they're not a state citizen with rights, but they're actually a U.S. citizen with privileges and immunity. So basically, the whole country now is basically released black slaves from after the Civil War, and nobody has any human rights according to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Everyone has just privileges and immunities, which is why you have to business license to open up a goddamn barbershop. You got to have a fucking permit to carry a gun. You got to have a driver's license to drive a car, because if you're a U.S. citizen, which means released slave post-Civil War, you don't have the right to have a car. You don't have the right to own anything. You don't have the right. You have privileges and immunities that can only be accessed by sucking the cock of the national government.
Yes. I love how you put that, man. And the basic that they use the 14th Amendment to frame it as the cornerstone for civil rights.
Yep.
You think about it, man. Whenever you think about the Declaration of Independence, it starts off saying that every man and woman is created equal, and then the Constitution is framed to protect our inalienable human rights. But then you have to give us or grant us civil rights. It just doesn't make sense.
It's even worse. Think about this. You're not granted shit. You pay for it.
Right.
That's where it hurts. That's where it hurts. I'm not just sucking dick. I'm paying to suck cock. I like to say it that way because it gets people thinking and it gets people a little irritated. I'm not anti-government. I don't want to see Capitol buildings on fire. But I like to say things that really get the gears turning. Okay. Now, the thing is, the government, I don't really believe the government even understands any of this information. It's just a bunch of people on computer screens clicking fucking bullshit, DMV people, whatever. But like the real reality is you're paying to suck dick. And the thing is that the guy across the table from you who's taking your Federal Reserve notes in order to like allow you to suck the dick of the government, they don't really know that's what's going on. So the thing is that I don't say this to try to like piss people off, like, oh, I'm going to burn the government buildings. That's not the point. The point is, like I said before, the problem is nobody knows any of this. And nobody over there, over here, nobody knows any of this. That's the issue, right? So you say to yourself, oh, I'm pissed. I'm not paying to suck dick anymore. Fuck them. They knew all about this all this time. I promise you, you've never probably ever dealt with or spoke to or interacted with somebody who knew any of this at all. So it comes down to intent. In law, intent is the difference between, manslaughter and murder. Manslaughter, you go away for a few years. Murder, you're bye-bye, right? So intent, it's the same thing here, right? Like, you've never been in front of somebody who had the intent to have you suck them off. You paid them to suck them off. Okay. It's just this big convoluted fucking cloud of horse shit. And it's just, everybody's confused and nobody knows what's going on. And unless maybe you had a lawyer or something, I feel like if you had a lawyer, maybe you were in a situation where the other person actually knew kind of maybe a little bit what's going on and they kind of fucked you over. Besides like lawyers getting involved, I feel like the chances that anyone had any clue about any of this is like almost zero. So you can sit here and you can get all fucking super pissed off and you can totally freak out and load your guns and paint your face. But I'm telling you, I did that at the very beginning of all this. And I'm telling you, I've talked to a lot of fucking people, and it's just, the problem is just absolutely no one knows any of this information. That's the issue. And if you just take a deep breath, understand some things, clean your own shit up, and then just start sharing the information, it's literally that simple. We can have a new America. You don't need to go out and paint your face and burn down buildings and strap C4 to your chest, all this craziness. I'm telling you, it's just going to hurt things. You know, the way to handle the situation is just set yourself up, clean your shit up, live a great life, be a great example, get everything that you want, be a beacon of hope and understanding for yourself and the people around you, and then just share the information, help other people understand, clear up the definitions of words, educate others, give them access to the information. I'm telling you, it's a surefire, 100% guaranteed success program. I promise you. Getting mad and strapping grenades to your chest, I promise you, you're not going to win. It's a guaranteed lose. Go into the courtroom, start screaming and threatening the bailiff and the judge. I guarantee you, guaranteed lose. On the side of the road, you're threatening the police officer, blah blah. I guarantee you, guaranteed lose. Guaranteed. You will always lose. They will make an example of you. And I'm sorry, from a lot of the things that you've said at the beginning of this conversation, especially if you're a black man. You start to say one little fucking thing, and it's just like, you know, I hate to say it. I didn't think it was true at first. Actually, I thought that was kind of untrue. And then I started interviewing police, and I started hearing more and more reports. And I'm not a liberal by any means, but it is an actual issue. It is a problem. And it probably does stem back to a lot of what we see with the 14th Amendment and, you know, all these different things. So, you know, it's shitty, it's sucky, and we can be mad about it. But I'm telling you right now, if you get mad about it and you act on that anger, it's just going to make things worse. I promise you.
Oh yeah, I already know, man. I got stories I could tell you from when I started studying this. That I wasn't even this deep into it when I started learning some of the stuff that I wanted to be militant. That was my first action was to be militant. It's time to take up arms. It's time. I would have probably been one of them guys that's about 5-10 years ago, the Stone Mountain incident that happened out there where people got up arms and had a standoff with the police at Stone Mountain. It would have been probably me out there, you know, but I thank God that I had children, because it put myself in a different perspective. And it gave me a new mission. And that mission is to uplift fallen humanity. We can't uplift fallen humanity from a jail cell. You cannot uplift fallen humanity from a graveyard. The only way you can uplift them is just like how you said, man, you got to share this stuff. What you learn, teach. Each one, teach one. And you made it clear there ain't no one coming to save us. So we have to take personal responsibility to fight back. Now, for someone that's listening right now who feels like this is a lot of information and this is like, whoa, you just woke me up. You just blew my mind. Like, how do you explain the first step to help them take back their rights and get rid of these privileges? What would be that first step in doing that?
The 14th Amendment offers you a type of citizenship. Everyone in all of America believes that that is the only type of citizenship available to you. The reason why that is because every single form and every single IRS form, the passport, everything only has an I-9 form, all these. It only has two different types of classes of citizenship. You have the U.S. citizen, and then you have the non-citizen national of the United States. Those are the two different categories, right? So you start to do a lot of research. You start to go into a historical timeline. So you got to go all the way back to like 1853, 54. So around that same time period as Dred Scott, same time around that same time period as Dred Scott decision. Prior to that point, passports were issued on the federal level, which means by the federal government, the national government, but they were also issued by the individual states. So you could actually get a California passport. And then in 1853 or 54 or 55, right around the Dred Scott decision, they changed that and they passed a law that says that only the U.S. Department of State can issue passports, right? So that was fine up until 1871. And then in 1871, when they released the 14th Amendment, I've heard reports of 100 years ago, when you fill out your passport information, you could literally select if you were a U.S. citizen or a state citizen. They had little fucking boxes. I'm not kidding. Like 100 years ago. And I found a bunch of old passport applications, and I have them all on my website. And I did a lot of digging and research on that. I haven't personally seen that with my own eyes, but I've heard of it kind of secondhand. But for whatever reason, over the years and 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 years, now you can't even select state citizen. All it is just a U.S. citizen or a non-citizen national of the United States, right? The problem is that those two classifications have nothing to do with being a true American. They're both 14th Amendment. They're both privileges and immunities. They're not rights. So they give you two choices and both of them fuck you, right? And I thought, for a long time throughout a lot of my research, I thought the non-citizen national was the way out. So if you watch a lot of videos of me and you'll see me talking about, especially, 3 or 4 or 5 months back, and then all the way back to a couple of years back, I'm talking about non-citizen national and non-citizen national passport, blah, blah, blah. And then recently, like we're talking literally like 2 months ago, I realized it's all the same. It's the same. It's 14th Amendment. It's non-citizen national of the United States and U.S. citizen are both 14th Amendment. So then I was like, well, what the fuck? What the fuck is not 14th Amendment? It's like everything is fucking 14th Amendment. So what the fuck is not 14th Amendment? So then I went back and I found the original Supreme Court case, which is the slaughterhouse cases, and I teach you how to get into all that and read all that. If you go to Google Scholar and you click on case law bubble and you type in the slaughterhouse cases, I believe it's 1873, and you click enter, it should pop right up. It's a U.S. Supreme Court case from a series of cases from like 1873. If you go and you read the opinion of the slaughterhouse cases, he breaks everything down, bro, in like such a clear way. He talks about the released slaves. He talks about they didn't have citizenship. He talks about so the way that he calls state citizens, he calls them men of the union, and he also calls them free man of the union. So it's one word, no capitalization. Free man of the union. The word union is capitalized, right? So you have this free man on the land movement where people, I'm a free man on the land. Problem is, where does that come from? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm different, right? I say, in accordance with the Honorable Justice Miller in the U.S. Supreme Court case, these slaughterhouse cases, I am a man, quote, man of the, quote, union. And then I go on to say, I never needed the citizenship offered by the 14th Amendment. It's crap. It's complete trash. Why the fuck would I want it?
Right.
So then I say I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a man of the union. I don't just say man of the union, though. I say in accordance with Honorable Justice Miller from U.S. Supreme Court case, the slaughterhouse cases, comma, I am a, quote, man, end quote, of the, quote, union, end quote, comma, and never needed your fucking bullshit 14th Amendment citizenship. So you're not saying fuck you, I've got it all figured out. You're saying, bro, I'm literally just telling you what the courts have said. I'm not making anything up. I'm not saying anything. I'm not doing anything crazy. Like, I'm just following the law. I'm literally just following the law. He said this is what this is. I'm just taking what he said, who I think he's a great guy. Because, you think to yourself, boy, whoever made the 14th Amendment, they must be real pieces of shit. And then you go back and you read the 14th Amendment and you read the slaughterhouse cases and you realize, God damn, bro, they were dealing with some real shit. And I'm telling you right now, you read the slaughterhouse cases, they were really, really, really trying to figure this out, bro. They didn't hate black people. They didn't hate this stuff. They were like really like trying to figure it out. And they didn't, maybe they were racist just because kind of everyone was at that point. Really, I mean, let's be honest, right? But the thing is,
Right.
that like you can tell when you're reading the opinion by the Honorable Justice Miller, he's not like fuck these people, blah blah. He's like just trying to solve a problem, bro. They're just trying to figure it out. They're not assholes,
Right.
And I'm telling you right now, I believe in reincarnation. For all I know, I'm fucking the reincarnated fucking Justice Miller because I'm pissed off about all this stuff. I'll tell you right now, if Justice Miller saw what happened after his fucking opinion, he would go on, I want to say like a murder rampage. I seriously, he'd be like pissed. There's probably not even a word in the English language to describe how angry the Honorable Justice Miller would be, because I promise you, if you read what he's talking about, he's not. That's not him, bro. Like you read the thing and it's like, dude, this is awesome. He's really trying to help. He's really trying to figure this out. He's really trying to figure out a way to where he doesn't get murdered, and the South and the North can kind of come together, and the released slaves can have some kind of a citizenship where they can function in society. But like, if I give him too much, I'm going to get fucking murdered and blah, blah. Like, you can just tell he's trying to fucking piece it together. And the thing is that it just got translated so horribly, so fucking horribly, and people took his opinion and twisted it and took us down this dark alleyway, and we've been kind of going down that dark alleyway ever since. So I think it's cool because you think to yourself, God, whoever fucking created all this mess must be the most racist piece of shit in the world. He may have been, but I'm telling you, when you read the opinion, you're not gonna feel that way. It's fascinating. It gives you such a different reality and such a different respect for the amount of pressure and difficulties that some of these justices were under, the whole country up their ass, and people probably showing up at their house and threatening to kill them all day and all night. And then they still go in there and they still release these things, and they're trying their best. And it's reading these court cases and seeing the various things in our past, I think that these justices that were trying to do the best they could are some of those badass motherfuckers, like some Tombstone, Doc Holliday shit, bro. I'm telling you.
Right.
I think these are some of the most gangster motherfuckers to walk the earth, and I think that they would just be absolutely spiritually devastated to see that what has occurred from the things that they were. I'm telling you, you read the opinion and you look at the world now, and it's just these guys would be. You think you want to fucking light government buildings on fire? I think the Honorable Justice Miller would literally be lighting government buildings on fire, and he's from the Supreme Court. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
He came back and see they just took his words and just went rampant with it. Like, God, this is not what the hell I meant, man. What the fuck is wrong with you people?
That's correct.
Yeah, see, that's what we need, man. We need that clarification, and that's what, like you say, those opinion pieces at the end of these trials, they give you real good insight to it. And a lot of people, they just do not, for some reason, do not want to read. But if you do some reading on it, that will help us look at it in a different light. Because going about this, like you said, most of these people got a 9-to-5 job. They getting paid $14, $15 an hour to deal with your shit. They don't know nothing about this shit. So why are you giving them shit about this shit? If anything, educate them so that they now know how to do their job better.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say everyone should read the Dred Scott case, and you can just go to Google Scholar and type in Dred Scott, boom, it'll pop right up. One of the biggest cases in all the history of America. And then also the slaughterhouse cases. I mean, no joke, when it comes to nationality, racism, slavery, black rights, like just those two cases, just those two opinions alone will give you everything, 92% of everything you've ever wondered or wanted. So yes, it's confusing. Yes, there's 80 million cases. Yes, there's 80 million cases you could read. Yes. And the Dred Scott and the slaughterhouse cases, you think to yourself, it's from the 1800s and it's legal. It's probably the most complicated text on the entire fucking planet. No, it's not the easiest text in the world, but you'd be surprised. It's also not the hardest, because I'm telling you, when they were there and they were trying to figure this shit out, they were really trying to address the nation. You can tell, I promise you, when you read the fucking opinions, you can tell these guys were trying to address the nation. They were trying to figure this out. So like, yeah, they say some legalese and they throw a few things in there, but like the whole opinion, if you were to like break it down, there's not a whole lot of that. Right. And you think 1800s, they're going to use big, huge words no one can understand. No, they don't do that either. The Dred Scott and the slaughterhouse, you'd be surprised. If I had to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, how difficult Dred Scott and slaughterhouse, I'd say like a 4. Seriously. So now we take that and we say like, okay, just a couple hours a day when you're on the shitter, you look up the Dred Scott decision and you read it on your phone, and you're going to need to clear up some legal words and clear up a few other things, and maybe look up a couple historical timelines. Let's say, 20 minutes a day, every day for 5 or 6 days. You could probably get through the Dred Scott decision in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 days at 15, 20 minutes a day. It's not a 5-second thing, but it's also not a million years. People think, oh, it's a million years. Not a million years, right? Right. Slaughterhouse cases is the same thing. You can read that whole opinion 15, 20 minutes a day on the shitter at night before you go to bed, while you're eating, 15 minutes a day. Read it on your phone, look up some, historical items, look up some definitions of some words that may be confusing to you, 10 days. So in 20 days, in my opinion, you could understand the Dred Scott decision and the slaughterhouse cases, which is like, you see all these fucking people and Trump and all these people talking about birthright citizenship and the 14th. It's all horseshit, bro. Everything you're seeing everywhere is all complete fucking horseshit. You read the Dred Scott and you read slaughterhouse, and I'm telling you, you will know more about nationality, naturalization, aliens, citizenship than any of these motherfuckers on the media. I promise you. I literally swear to fucking God. And it's free. You go on Google Scholar, you click the case law button, you type in Dred Scott, and then pop, it pops right up. And then you click on it, and then bing, you're in the opinion. Then later on in the day, or 10 days later, you go back to Google Scholar, you click case law, you type in slaughterhouse cases. Bing, first thing pops up, you click it, bam, you got the opinion right there. Boom. It's that simple. It's that fucking simple. Yeah, it's going to take you more than 3 seconds to read the goddamn opinion. Yeah, there's no fucking video. Yeah, no one's going to suck you off. Yeah, there's no audio book associated with it. I'm sorry, there's not. So, it's going to take a minute. But the thing is that, if you, as a black man, feel like this is fucked and what happened and how did this happen and where's the racism, that's it, bro. That's the answer. Dred Scott, slaughterhouse, bang, bang. That's it. I mean, is there more cases? Is there more you can learn? Is there more? Yes, of course. But I'm telling you, you've got 90% of the conversation right there.
Yep. And all you got to do is, just like you said, just read. It's not Twitter. You don't expect to even get all this information on Twitter. You want to get into those books. You want to get into those words. And if they're going to be talking to you about your life, at least understand what they're saying about your life. That's just pretty much just cut dry.
It comes down to this. You think as a black man, you've got no rights. Damn straight. If you say you're a U.S. citizen, you ain't got no rights. The whole U.S. citizen category was created for the black man. It was
Yep.
literally, I could look up, dude, check this out. I could look up fucking there's a California Supreme Court case that legit, no Joe. You want to talk about some fucking racism. You want to talk about how this and you can get mad about it. You know, you can get mad about it. I don't see the point. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you getting mad about it ain't gonna fucking change a goddamn thing. It's gonna raise your cortisol level and make you look older. So fuck you. If you want to do that, go for it. But state Supreme Court, 1872, we've got Ellen R. Van Valkenburg v. Albert Brown, 43 Cal 43 says no white person born within the limits of the United States and subject to the jurisdiction or born without those limits and subsequently naturalized under their laws owes the status of citizenship to the recent amendments to the federal Constitution. What does that mean? White people have nothing to do with the 14th Amendment. Straight up. Straight the fuck up, bro. White people have nothing to do with the 14th Amendment at all whatsoever. That's the first sentence. Continuing from there, it says, the history and aim of the 14th Amendment is well known, and the purpose had in view in its adoption well understood. That purpose was to confer the status of citizenship upon a numerous class of persons domiciled within the limits of the United States who could not be brought within the operation of the naturalization laws because native born and whose birth, though native, had at the same time left them without the status of citizenship. Now check this out. Direct fucking quote. You ready? These persons were not white persons, but were in the main persons of African descent who had been held in slavery in this country, or if having themselves never been held in slavery, were the native born descendants of slaves. Prior to the adoption of the 14th Amendment, it was settled that neither slaves nor those who had been such, nor the descendants of those, though native and freeborn, were capable of becoming citizens of the United States. And guess what fucking case they're talking about?
Dred Scott.
Dred Scott versus Sanford.
Wow. That whole bull, they said that the 14th Amendment does away with the Dred Scott case, just got thrown out the window with another court case after the 14th Amendment that upholds the Dred Scott case.
You got it. So the Dred Scott, up until the slaughterhouse cases, it was all confusion. It was like, what do we do with these guys? And what are we going to do? And oh my God. And then there's a civil war. And then like, who's going to win? Who's going to win? You know, if the South wins, then we're going to side with them. And then everyone's just fucked and they're all slaves and we're not going to do anything. If the North wins, you know, which was called the Union at the time. If the Union wins, we're going to fucking, so the Union won. What do we do? You know, what do we do? Okay, the Union won. They don't want slavery. How do we figure this out? But if we say that, you know, if we release all the slaves and give them state citizenship, we're going to have another uprising, and then the war is never going to fucking end, and then I'm going to get fucking murdered, and my family's going to get fucking murdered. Well, I'm telling you, I don't know for a fact, but I'm telling you, I believe this is what was going on during that time period.
It makes sense. It makes too much sense, and hearing it and explained in a way that actually does make sense, because it just boggles our mind. It's been on Black people's mind for a long time. What did we do to make white people hate us and all this and all that? But hearing it in that aspect, it sounds a lot clearer. There was so much confusion. There was people who was afraid they was going to lose their jobs because slaves who were way more qualified at the work were coming into the workforce, and they was thinking they was going to lose their jobs, so they couldn't get the same rights, and they had to be given privileges that could be taken away on a whim. And it's 2025, everybody's a U.S. citizen. When
so you know, people think nowadays, you know, oh, white people have rights. In fact, everyone is a black released slave at this point. Literally everyone is a black released slave. So this whole nightmare, this whole like chasm, this whole black hole that opened in 1873 with the slaughterhouse cases has engulfed every race, every black man, every white man, every Spanish man, every Filipino, every Venezuelan, every motherfucker in this country has fallen into this black hole. Yes, the police naturally, for whatever reason, in a lot of areas do operate in a way that it still kind of shocks me. I didn't think it was true at first, but obviously I've learned that that's not true. But factually in law, everyone has been engulfed by this thing. Every race is fucked.
Yep.
And I know
And
in practice, in reality, in the car, in the street, it may not seem that way, but I'm telling you, in the law, in reality, in the judicial system, everybody's fucked. Everybody's fucked. It's just fucked. Every single person that says they're a U.S. citizen, they're fucked, and no one's ever heard of anything else. So if you've never heard of anything else, it's like, oh yeah, the only thing I've ever heard of is this thing called the U.S. citizen. So that's what I am. I don't know, you know. So if you're not that, what are you?
Right.
I don't know, fucking illegal what that's what the media will tell you. Media will tell you you're either a U.S. citizen or a fucking illegal alien, which is the biggest crock of shit on the fucking planet.
Yes.
A U.S. citizen is somebody who's allowed to domicile or residence. It's actually, you can't even domicile when you get into it deep enough. You can't even live in the District of Columbia. You're only allowed to temporarily be there for commercial or recreational purposes. So the word domicile means you actually live somewhere. You don't see that fucking word anywhere. And the reason why is because it's gone.
Right.
The 14th Amendment ate the whole goddamn country. So you don't have domicile anymore. You have only residence. Oh, are you a resident of State of California? Are you a resident of City of Los Angeles? Are you, where is your residence? People don't realize the word residence means a temporary location where you intend to return to your domicile, and the temporary location is for commercial or recreational purposes. And you think to yourself, well, why is everything resident? Because of the Commerce Clause. Everything's got to be commercial. Domicile isn't commercial in nature. Residence at least opens the door to the possibility of a commercial activity. Bam! Now the federal government has jurisdiction. The word residence means that they have jurisdiction, or it's not like that clear, but it's at least opens the door to the possibility of gaining jurisdiction. Whereas domicile doesn't give them any jurisdiction at all. So they had to convert everything over to the word residence and resident. And now the word domicile doesn't even exist. You go back 100 years in the court system, everything's domicile. Nowadays, you don't see the word domicile anywhere, because if you use the word domicile, now all of a sudden you're not under the jurisdiction of the federal government. You have everything is resident. It's full blown. The 14th Amendment has completely engulfed everything, all the terminology, everything we say, everything we do. The fact that State of California is a fucking corporation or business listed on Dun & Bradstreet. The Federal Reserve notes, negotiable instruments. I can go on and on and on. Driver's licenses, concealed carry permits, business licenses. All of this, everything you see, everything, business, bank accounts, everything that you see in today's world stems from the complete. The 14th Amendment opened this tiny little black hole, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at this point in 2025, every motherfucker, every fucking business, every fucking bank account, every fucking dollar, everything, every single certificate of title for a car, ownership, titles, everything, without getting into that too much, has fallen into this black hole. This black hole has literally engulfed everything. And when you realize that, and you realize that you can actually get out of it by understanding the terminology, and people think that like it's paperwork that fucking frees you. It's not paperwork. It's an understanding of the situation, black or white. And now, if you're a black man and you want to get out of all this, truthfully, I'm not kidding. There is some truth to the fact that you're going to have to be extra knowledgeable and extra friendly.
Oh yeah.
A white guy could probably get away with a little bit of snarkiness and a little bit of this and a little bit of not knowing a few things here and there. I feel like whereas a black guy, if he really wants to walk out of this, he's going to have to be like, he's going to have to really know it, super fucking polished. Like it's going to be the bar is going to be a little higher. I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know how to soften.
But you've already proved it by showing the California Supreme Court case that says that white people don't even fall up under. We can't use that to our defense.
That's correct.
You know, if we classify ourselves as black, you know, and going on a record, the government actually has me classified as white because my family is from North Africa. So that was something that was a very big shock to me. I've been fighting the Black Power movement since I was knee high, you know, and then I'm filling out this paperwork, trying to, you know, get my passport and trying to be nationalized and stuff like that. And they tell me, well, sir, you're already classified as white. You was done that at birth because your family said that you was from North Africa. Blew my mind.
If the court system says that the way that the court system in America works is that someone makes a presumption and then the other party has to basically like rebut that presumption, right? So as you see in Dred Scott, Slaughterhouse, and then I like the one I just told you, the Van Valkenburg, because I'm in California and it's a California Supreme Court case. It's like super effective for where I'm located in the Ninth Circuit. But the thing is that I also like it because it's very clear white people don't have anything to do with the 14th Amendment, right? Like it's just so fucking like there's no like you want to have a conversation about this? Like absolutely not. I want to run away as fast as possible. Yeah, that's what I figured, you motherfucker. You know, because I'm going up against judges and prosecutors and stuff. So I like heavy hitting stuff. I'll use whatever I can get. But the thing is that you got to think that when that quote I read, they're talking about descendants of the slaves. So the whole point of the 14th Amendment. So like, if you're a black man and you come over here from Africa and you got nothing to do with any of that and slavery or nothing, then like, could you classify yourself as a white person because you were never a descendant of slaves directly through the Dred Scott and through Slaughterhouse? That's an interesting conversation because the thing is that the whole point of it is lineage. When you start to really read it and understand it, it's lineage based. So if I was Milano or half black, half white, God knows what, whatever, and I was coming over from some other country and like I didn't have any lineage associated with slavery in America, I would probably just say, fuck it, I'm white. Because the white or black connotation has to do with the lineage of a man who was held in slavery and then released. So is it really color based or is it lineage based? And like you read all this stuff and you read all these opinions, it's so, and you also got to realize you're filling out a fucking passport application and it says nationality and you check the white box and you sign the document. I've never once in my life heard of somebody getting prosecuted. What are they going to do? They're going to come after you under penalty of perjury for fucking putting white on a goddamn document. It's never happened. It's never happened in 150 years of our whole fucking country.
Exactly.
So like you want to say, fuck it, I'm white because I'm not a fucking descendant of a goddamn a fucking slave and I have the rights of a fucking state citizen. I'm not a fucking 14th Amendment fucking piece of shit. Fuck you. I'm white for all purposes here. And I signed the goddamn document. You want to fucking say something to me? You come after me, motherfucker. I'll see you in court. I don't know. That's how I would do it. Fuck them.
The thing about it is, I actually encourage people to look up Mustafa Helfny. Mustafa Helfny is a dark-complected Egyptian who is fighting the government till this day since the 1970s to be classified as black because he thinks wrongly classified as white. But if he reads the Federal Directive 15, which is why he always gets his cases thrown out by judges, the judge is like, well, technically, sir, you put on your application, you're from Egypt. Egypt is in North Africa. North Africa, according to Federal Directive 15, is classified as white. And he gets his cases thrown out a lot. He has books written and everything. He's fighting. He's fighting a good fight, but he wants to be classified as black. And here's the thing. This is where he explains himself. Because he wants the privileges that are given to blacks. I'm not sure if he understands that he would no longer have any rights. But that's how he is
communities. And the thing is that America wants you to sign up as a 14th Amendment citizen. So they want everybody signed up so they want everybody basically classifying as black or I mean, everyone is pretty much just self-classifying as a black lineage of a released slave. Essentially, that's essentially the whole country in a nutshell, honestly. And what the creepiest thing about the situation is that every single person who does that, every single person who says I'm a U.S. citizen, basically what you're saying is that I'm a released slave from the Civil War, but you're also saying that I'm essentially living in the District of Columbia, because you can't. A state citizen lives in a state. A U.S. citizen doesn't live in a state. A U.S. citizen is not a citizen of a state. A U.S. citizen is a citizen of the District of Columbia. So the thing is that on paper, you basically, when you say you're a U.S. citizen on everything, you basically live in the District of Columbia. And the thing is, the District of Columbia is not one of the 50 states. They've been trying to become a state for years. You can look it up. There's a whole website. It's a pretty wild website where they talk about, it's literally, they have an FAQ section. They say 51st state, Washington, D.C. And you can type it in. Is Washington, D.C. going to be the 51st state? And there's a whole website, and they have a Q&A section. They have all the stuff. And the thing is, it's not. They've been trying to for years. It's never going to happen. They're all delusional. They have no idea what's going on. But the thing is that it's every U.S. citizen is essentially legally located in the District of Columbia. And every man of the Union who doesn't claim 14th Amendment U.S. citizen lives in one of the states. So basically, on paper, 99.99% of every motherfucker living in the entire North American sector, what people think of as the United States of America, 99.99% of every motherfucker in the entire country, on paper, lives in the District of Columbia. So in all of California, I'm one of literally just probably several hundred people that actually legally on paper live in California.
Wow. Yeah, it's lonely out there, huh?
I have rights. I don't have privileges and immunities. I don't want them. I'm not claiming them.
And that's a beautiful thing, man. And then once we get that understanding, that concept, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to get this thing on the ball. And we won't have to worry about fighting policy enforcers and things of that nature in order to be able to exert our own rights.
Let's say your great grandfather was enslaved, and let's say he had sex with some woman who wasn't enslaved, and then there was a child produced from that, and let's say that child was your great grandfather. And then he wasn't never in slavery. And then he banged some hot Filipino girl who came over from God knows where or whatever. The whole conversation becomes fucking irrelevant so fucking fast. It's like great grandpa, or I mean, we're not that far. Great grandpa was a slave, but great grandma wasn't.
Right.
So now what? Now we've got son, and then now son was with great grandma. Already we've got a conversation. Already we've got a fucking a defense in court. Already, and we haven't even gotten down to grandpa, and then we've got dad, and then now we've got you. So the thing is that the whole thing is just, it's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking irrelevant. It doesn't need to exist. We don't need it. So, like, Congress has already said in 1963 or 64, I got that on my websites, that the 14th Amendment was never, Google says that it was fucking, yeah. So what happened was there was a bunch of states that said, I don't know about this. And then they threatened those states. And they said, if you don't sign this, you're not going to be part of the union. You can't, it's part of the basic aspects of a contract. Under threat and duress, the signature on the contract is null and void under threat and duress. So like Congress talks about this in like 67 or 66. And they have this whole thing where they're talking about how those signatures don't even count. So, like, if you don't count those signatures, the 14th Amendment never even existed. And even if it did, The conversation is, dude, that was great grandpa and great grandma wasn't. And then now this guy, and it's like, bang. Now, like, I'm not, you would need to prove in a court of law, government, Department of State, that great grandma and great grandpa were both delineated from slaves. And then grandma and grandpa were both delineated from slaves. And then dad and mom are both delineated from slaves. And you ain't ever going to fucking do that.
Nope.
So basically, on paper, I'm white. Fuck you.
Exactly. Brandon, this has been a very enlightening, man. I love this conversation, man, because you brought some skepticisms that people been having. You actually been breaking it down and brought those insights to life. Man, I want to appreciate you for that, because with this knowledge, we got weaponry now. We have the right weaponry. We got the right mindset to go into this. And what your work has been doing with the Contract Killer 2.0, love it. And we're going to be pushing it, because we definitely need to get that knowledge out there, man. But before we go, I do want to leave the audience with a couple of questions for them to go and work out on their own. Mm-hmm. The first one is that who benefits when an entire population is stripped of their nationality and replaced with a system such as the credit system that we got? And why is the 14th Amendment framed as progress when its foundation is arguably fraudulent? And what would happen if we all reclaimed our rights and refused to participate in this system anymore? Now, if the listeners, if you out there, you like this conversation, this is actually fitting you right now, make sure you follow Brandon Joe Williams and One Stupid Fuck on all platforms. You can find his work at onestupidfuck.com to learn more about dismantling the system and reclaiming your freedom. Brandon, is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with?
I mean, if I were to answer, you asked a lot of questions there. I'm a little bit spinning here. The truth is that I truly believe that very few people are aware. I've had a lot of opportunities to talk to a lot of senior bankers. I've talked to a lot of people, even at the DMV. I've had a lot of reports. I get a lot of information through reports. I know people who know police. I have police who follow my stuff. I've so many things. I've been doing this for a few years now, and my email list is about 50,000 people. So, I mean, you can imagine the amount of information and stuff that I get on a day-to-day basis. And I'm telling you, if there's one thing I can promise you, is that just no one knows. So the area where you can transform into a really bad situation, and it's the same thing across the board, all the way through every report, is you assume that the police officer who pulls you over, the DMV person across the table, the banker who you're dealing with, you assume they know things, and then they have the intent to suppress or oppress you. And then that causes really a lot of anger and hostility and frustration in your universe, right? And I'm telling you, I promise you, I swear to God, on everything under the sun, moon, and stars, everything I hold dear, my own dick, I swear on my own penis, that no one has any clue. And the percentage chance of you going through your whole life and meeting someone who truly has the intention to destroy you. Yes, the people at the very, 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 very top who created all this, who do all this stuff, and they're like these puppet string master. Yes, they have the intent to hurt you. The chances of you even meeting someone that fits that category throughout your entire life is so slim. I guarantee you. And it's going to destroy your life. It's going to raise your cortisol levels. It's going to fuck you up in the head to think that everyone knows except you, and they're all out to get you. That will literally clinically drive you insane. The truth of the matter is, the chances of you meeting someone that really knows this information and they really are out to get you in your entire life, from the day you're born till the day you die, even after you learn all this information, is extremely low. I don't think I've ever met a single person in my entire life directly that knew what was going on and was openly and explicitly intending to suppress or oppress me. I have a case, Small Business Administration. I have an attorney. His name is Mr. Farrell, Alex Farrell. And I've been on the phone with him several times. I was on the phone with him yesterday, actually. And I say things to him and he looks things up. I can hear him clack, clack, clack on his computer. Either these people are the greatest actors that have ever existed since the dawn of humanity, which they definitely are not, by the way, or they just don't know. They just don't know. And the thing is that the thing that's going to make you angry and the thing that's going to piss you off, and the thing that's going to make you want to go out and buy a lot of guns, is this idea that people know, and they have the intention to knowingly and willingly stop, destroy, suppress, or oppress you. And I swear to God, that is not the case. I literally on my own dick, I swear to God. So the chances of that happening is so slim, and the real reality of the situation, after being 3 years in lots of courts and lots of things and lots of people and lots of reports and 50,000 people on my email list, I have come to realize that the problem is that people just don't know. We need to share the information in a fun, calm, not crazy, lunatic, blow up the building kind of a way. And we need to just share the information, have some fun. It's not about raising cortisol levels through the roof and then looking 20 years older than you actually are, and developing medical issues and enriching the pharmaceutical company because you're stressing yourself out to the point where you feel you need every other goddamn fucking advertisement on the fucking TV is for some bullshit fucking medicine. Whatever they're trying to sell something to everybody because they're trying to make everybody think they're fucking ill and all this. It's not the case. The case is that, people don't know. We need to share the information in have fun, enjoy your life, laugh, have some humor, share some of the information. Maybe somebody thinks you're crazy, fucking batshit crazy. Okay, fine. Don't share the information anymore to that person. Just move on. Not a big deal. And just have a little bit more of a relaxed, fun, educational mind. And I think if we do that and we share the information in a fun, educated, interesting way, and we don't jump down people's throats and freak out and paint our faces and strap bombs to our chest and all these crazy things, I think we can achieve something really wonderful.
Man, that's beautiful right there. I agree with you, man. The possibilities are endless when we work together, and that's real talk.
Yeah.
Now, I know you usually don't give a fuck, but is there anyone out there that you give a fuck about that you want to give a shout out to?
I mean, my fans would be the only thing. I mean, I've got, my fans run around and share the information and say a lot of cool things. And I think that's what I live for. I mean, I live for, who's the next person that's going to find out about this information? Who's the next person that's going to learn about, even one piece of this information? It's not about, oh, how do I understand all of this and become a Jedi master in fucking 10 minutes? It's how do I just a few pieces, bro. Just like, holy shit, there's something really crazy here. This is crazy. I want to learn more about this. Even that's like crazy. That's like, you're like unleashing the beast. You know what I mean? Like, even just like, holy shit, things aren't what I thought they were. This is crazy. Maybe there's some truth to this. Maybe this one stupid fuck guy is absolutely batshit insane. Or maybe he's got a couple things that might actually really change some things in my life and might be really interesting and might be really helpful. I'm that's where I'm at, bro. I'm not in this whole like everything's got to change tomorrow and every piece of information has to be accessed in 10 minutes. I just don't think that's realistic. So, fans who just share the information, we all share the information. We all work together, helping other people empower and educate themselves. I'll sit there and fucking talk to cops. I'll sit there and fucking talk to DMV employees. I don't care. I don't, if you're in front of me and you're willing to hear anything, I might fish a little bit. Hey, you ever heard, you don't need to pay taxes. You ever know about that? Oh, you're crazy. Okay. No problem. No, I'm crazy. No problem. No. But if you say, hey, you ever heard, you pay taxes? What, really? I've heard a little bit about this. But I think it's all bullshit. Like, you'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised, and then you can kind of go from there and blah, 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 and say a few things. It's like fishing a little bit, but right. I do that a lot. I'm always trying to figure out, like, can I say something, and if I can't, then okay, it's okay. No problem. And if I can, I'll say a little bit, not too much. A lot of people will be like, can I say something? And then there'll be like this tiny little opening and they just like smash through it at like 400 miles an hour and they throw their whole body through it. That's rough because you're going to shut the person off. So it's sort of like, you have to kind of understand this whole kind of, you push it a little bit and then you get a little access and then you push it a little bit and you get a little access and then now they shut down. So now you back off. And I'm telling you, if you understand the nuances of this, you won't feel upset and angry because you won't. There's nothing to be. You feel angry because you're trying like hell to help someone that you love, and then
Yeah.
they fucking put the wall up, and you go, motherfucker, I'm trying to save your life. God, God,
Right.
you know, and you fucking, no, I'm gonna save your fucking life whether you like it or not. And then that just makes it worse. And that's kind of like a lot of what we run into. So it's a lot of, sharing the information is a really cool, delicate operation. It's like as much as it hurts me, as much as it's painful for me to walk away from this conversation right now, you can even say that, bro. Literally be like, I love you so much. I want this so much for you, but I see that you don't want it. I'm going to walk away. And, if you ever change your mind, I would just love to tell you more about this. You have no idea. It's like my heart just bleeds for this. And you just walk away. I mean, what else can you do? You know what I mean?
Exactly. You don't want to force it down their throat because that's how they got into the situation in the first place, being forced into it. So I can hear you on that one, man. And that's why it's great to have people like you out there that's actually teaching us. And that's why the Revolutionary Hour podcast actually exists, to make sure that people can get this information to a point where hopefully they can leave their emotions out the door. So that's why I want to invite everybody that's listening right now to make sure you find One Stupid Fuck, Brandon Joe Williams, on all platforms. Follow him. Follow Revolutionary Hour podcast on all streaming platforms and YouTube. And for exclusive reggae content and updates, make sure you visit us at sbcmovement.com. Remember that Black history isn't Black's history. It's time to reclaim the narrative and discover the truth. Stay revolutionary, and we'll see you the next time. All right. Appreciate you, Brandon, man. You have a great night, bro. We're going to definitely stay in contact.
Thank you.